Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Doom Eternal, round 4 here at the Doom Hunter base. Gosh, what is there to say? I recently finished Ancient Gods, mostly on Nightmare difficulty. The one thing that I was not able to manage was the third level, the Holt. Slayer Gate, which is the most ridiculous. It's just utterly ridiculous. It's actively difficult on Hurt Me Plenty, and it is barely doable, at least for me, on Ultraviolence. I didn't even come close on Nightmare. It is crazy. I shudder to think what Ancient Gods 2 is going to look like. Yeah. Regardless, it's nice to be back in in vanilla Eternal here, where things are way less terrible. Although I'm going to have to, I've been, at my full capacity in Ancient Gods, so might screw up things a little bit with, stuff like dash timing and what have you, but that's cool. We'll figure it out. I do think I make a few stupid mistakes in this level, but that's okay. This is a pretty casual playthrough. Yeah, so in dealing with Ancient Gods Part 1, I've learned some things, and kind of, I guess, reconnected to some things, and reconsidered the importance of some things as well. So hopefully we'll have some opportunities to talk about some of this stuff over the course of this particular video. We won't talk too much about upgrade stuff this time out. I'm going to grab Lock-On Burst here, because it is, I find that Remote Detonate and Lock-On Burst are good things to have. It's an easy pair of mods to switch between for this weapon, both of which have pretty good uses. So yeah, hopefully we'll talk a little more about upgrade stuff once we get back to the Fortress of Doom, which I guess will be the next episode. Hopefully there's a tiny bit of hitching in this recording, so I apologize for that, but I'm actually using some new recording settings, which hopefully they generally seem to be improved. I'm honestly continuously shocked by how well this generally works out, despite the age of my PC. This game runs remarkably well, especially while recording, which I would not expect for a PC that's, God, what is this thing? 8 years old? I mean, this is not a fresh PC, so, that's definitely something to think about. Your settings are worth thinking about if you do not have a monstrous rig. If you're kind of in the same boat as me, then worth looking at your settings, seeing where you might be able to squeeze a little more performance out, or make use, of course, of any colorblind options you may need. There's even a setting for the power-ups and how bright they are. That's one of the major differences between Doom Eternal and 2016. Use of color generally. There's a lot of things that are more colorful in the game, but particularly the power-ups. They're bright and distinctive. You can always sort of tell what you're looking at, because the gameplay speed has so increased that I think they really wanted to make sure that you could see everything effectively, even when you were going at really high speed and not having to, you know, spend too long looking at anything. So we're still not quite into, I guess, what you would consider the full loop of Doom Eternal. Got hung up on some architecture there. This is unfortunate. You do have to watch out for that. Low health here, so trying to be careful and not die, but then I get hung up on another corner. Yeah, I think next bit that we do, the Super Gore Nest, that's kind of where I guess the game really feels like you're not, like the training wheels come off. I was really mad about that. I lost a life there and really felt like I should have gotten that glory kill. So it was very frustrating death that I ended up just punching the Arachnotron that was slightly in front of me rather than snapping to the glory kill immediately behind it. You do have to be careful about those, the placement of your aiming reticle when doing those, because that kind of thing can certainly happen. So this is a tricky fight, although honestly I'm doing much more poorly on it than expected. At some point I think I sort of lost my rhythm and just, like, my timing is off. I'm like, oh crap, you know, I thought I had a grenade and I didn't. And there's been a couple times I think I was expecting my flame belch to be active and it wasn't. It's an easy thing to kind of get lost in Doom Eternal. It is certainly worth at times just taking a reset and, you know, getting some distance, kind of re-looking at your gear cooldowns and stuff like that, and just leveling yourself in your head a little bit. I find that that's pretty helpful for me when I get in those moments where I've just, like, okay, it's been too long where I've been in sort of panic mode, you know, because I was really low health or looking to restock something. And I mean, you know, to a degree those are par for the course, as you sort of expect to lose health and have sort of more predictable sources of damage or, you know, hits that you take where you're like, okay, whatever. You know, it's kind of the usual thing. But then there's those other times where you miss a bunch of shots. And, you know, take an unexpected hit from some little trash mob off in the corner, you know, that just throws you off. So that's when it's often a good time to take a reset. You don't want to lose your forward momentum too often in this game, but definitely in those kinds of circumstances it can be helpful. So I got to kill 3 demons with a single frag grenade, which is one of the challenges on this level. It's easy to lose track of those, so make sure you're watching your challenges, and especially, you know, make sure you get the easy ones at the very least. There's really no reason not to. And all the challenges are pretty easy on this level. This is a very aerial map. There's a lot of jumping puzzles here. So we're going to have a lot of air dashing and climbing on stuff like this. For the most part, it's not during combat, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But do be mindful of your Cacodemons. Took an unnecessary hit there. And we have a Pinky who likes to come charging through here. If you don't have your blood punch up, it can be a good idea to get that charged up on one of your zombies. So in the course of this playthrough, I've discovered that I mean, I've talked about my terrible mouse before, and I've decided that it is time for me to get a new one. So I'm in the process of shopping for a new mouse. It probably is not going to be, you know, some crazy military grade whatever, because I don't have that kind of money, but definitely tired of this one. And if you don't have some decent hardware, then it's probably something worth considering as well. Not sure what happened here. It looked like that Revenant just totally disappeared. It's very odd. Gained some resource stack back here. These carcasses are frustrating. I guess this is the first time they're introduced. I should be more certain of that. I'm pretty sure, yeah, the codex entry just opened up, so I'm sure it's the first time. And I repeatedly hit this hazard, which is just dumb. But yeah, carcasses are a major potential source of frustration. They have the energy shield that they randomly throw up to kind of block your movement. And of course your shots can be quite frustrating, especially you know, on higher difficulty levels where you know, health and resources are a tad more precious. It can be a real problem when you accidentally hit yourself in the face with a rocket. So I'm trying to decide what I want here. Obviously these runes, there's all kinds of different ways you can trick yourself out here. And I tend to go for speeding up anything that I can, or in this case, especially on Nightmare, I'd like having the enemies in a stagger state for longer. It gives you a little more wiggle room when you do stagger someone to kind of, you know, get back around to them if it's something that wasn't necessarily in an ideal location where they got staggered. So yeah, new mouse. That's hopefully coming up in the near future for me, which will be great. I don't know that it's going to substantially improve my play or anything, but at the very least, it'll feel a lot nicer. My mouse wheel is currently unusable because whichever way you scroll it, it sometimes registers in the opposite direction, which is super not handy, as you may imagine. So I don't use my mouse wheel for anything in this game, and I honestly don't know that I will after I get a new one either. But we'll see. We'll see. So these guys are quite formidable. They're a mid-tier enemy, and they have just enough health to often survive more than one assault. So many times you'll rush up with a super shotgun blast expecting to take them out, and they will live through it. Sometimes they'll, you know, might end up in a stagger state. Other times they'll just take the full brunt of the attack and nothing, you won't get anything out of it. And combined with the fact that you get less of a window of opportunity with them compared to your average enemy, like a Mancubus there has no particular defense. There's no need to wait for a window to attack it, whereas with the Carcass, you do kind of need an opportunity. they also have a very powerful melee attack and a pretty decent ranged attack as well. So they're quite formidable, and it very much helps to treat them with respect. That's my recommendation for carcasses. Treat them with respect. Mostly, they're a target you can prioritize in Eternal because they're not usually like a constantly respawning enemy. That is not the case in Ancient Gods, so one has to get used to dealing with them by the time you hit the DLC. So there's some traversal stuff here in this part of the level. This is actually a fun level as far as like traversal and finding secrets and that kind of stuff. This is a fun level. We've talked a little bit already about keybinds and that sort of thing, and I think I've talked a little bit about weapon switching as well, but maybe not as much as that topic is due. So I'm going to grab some upgrade here. Got 4 points, so that'll get you most of the big ones. There's a couple of 5-pointers, but these 4-pointers are great. I tend to save up for them and buy the bigger ones first. And I usually go for the speed and movement track kind of over anything else for the most part, and pretty soon we'll be able to upgrade our super shotgun as well, which will be great. Take this guy out and zip on over to our buddy here. Meat hook is great for traversal. So most people are gonna already have a keybind that's comfortable and quick for their like secondary fire, their mod button. But make sure you do, because especially for stuff like that, you really want to be able to use it quickly. Which really goes for just about everything in this game. There's there isn't much that you can do slow. You might be able to get away with having a few slightly less convenient weapon keys, but you probably want to make sure that they're at least grouped in such a way that it's comfortable switching between weapons that combo well together. And that kind of gets back to what I was talking about before with weapon swapping. There's some very good combinations of weapons to swap. Primarily this is done for damage. For the most part, obviously when you're just swapping weapons normally, it's to make use of whatever weapon is best for a given situation. Combination of enemies, or to exploit some enemy weak points, that sort of thing. But also,
was it not the Slayer who brought the demons?
Sometimes you just want to do a lot of damage fast.
The Dawnmaker has you to thank for the gift of Argent energy. It is you who are responsible for your people's suffering.
So there actually is no need to go behind a pinky like that to use Blood Punch. You can take them out from the front using Blood Punch, which is actually a thing I didn't know until recently. It was a blind spot in my knowledge. So that was a bit of a game changer. And actually it came in really handy knowing this in Ancient Gods in a couple of instances. for some reason, just cannot seem to land a shot on this dude. Accidentally missed the glory kill there. But yeah, weapon switching. Good combo weapons. For the most part, you're going to be looking at single-shot weapons, right? So your ballista, which we don't have yet, so that's something we'll see in action on our next level. But honestly, both your shotguns can work well in this regard. Oopsie daisy, kind of overshot that. Pick up our manhole cover here. Yeah, regular combat shotgun and your super shotgun are pretty good to combo. The reason behind the hot swapping feature, I guess, it might have been a bug in 2016 that sort of became a feature. I'm honestly not sure how that worked, but either way, by now it's definitely a feature. The reason for it is you reduce the reload time, or really you eliminate the reload time. So obviously it's more effective once you have purchased the upgrade that lets you swap your weapons more quickly. But basically, as you can see here, I'm firing this gun and having to reload it each time, but once you have mastered weapon swapping, you can switch to another weapon and fire it immediately, and then switch back and just keep doing that over and over again, and you never have to actually use the animation of reloading the gun. So it's especially effective with the super shotgun, because that's a fairly substantial reload time. Same thing with the ballista. It also has a pretty substantial time between shots, given how powerful it is. So if you are able to, there is a key. I think I've talked about this before. My hot swap button is key, which T rather, which will swap between the weapon I'm using and the last weapon that I used. And so that'll let you just use a single button press to do it, although honestly it's not really necessary, and I find that it's actually better not to do that. It's actually better to get used to hitting the individual keys for your individual weapons, and I find that works better, not just because it reinforces, the muscle memory for switching to those weapons, but it actually, somehow it's easier, at least for me, timing-wise. I always seem to do better at actually, swap fire without any delay. So, we may or may not have talked about this, but you saw there that I did a flame belch on the Cacodemon before I engaged the glory kill. If I haven't mentioned that before, then that's a good thing to mention now. Flame belch can be highly useful in circumstances where you have a large group of enemies that you can hit with it all at once. So for groups of small enemies, that can be fantastic because you can burst them all like armor piñatas and get a whole ton of armor drops all at once. But in circumstances where that isn't the case, and maybe you have a few large single targets that don't stay on fire for nearly as long, it can be to your advantage to simply fire off that flame belch before engaging in a glory kill, because you will get the armor boost, the armor drops from that enemy when it expires. So that's a pretty handy thing to use. Those are kind of I guess the two main ways that you'll use flame belch, either to tag a bunch of smaller enemies, or to get a quick burst right before a glory kill, or maybe just a super shotgun use or a ballista, or even a grenade. Any item that's gonna do a nice big chunk of damage in one shot is usually the primary way that you kind of want to use that in the momentary sense, or a glory kill, which is same thing. So we're coming up on our boss fight here, and I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. I haven't invested in the upgrades, so I don't actually remember in the upgrades for map stuff. So I don't remember what each hidden item is, so I want to make sure that I don't do like I did in Cultist Base on my first recording, where I missed... well, actually, now I can't remember if it was the first recording or the subsequent one. Either way, I missed one. It may actually have been the subsequent recording, because I decided to, as I recall, go back and pick it up. So I just, ran back through the levels super quick, ignored everything that I could, and just, grabbed that Sentinel Crystal and exited back out, so that I just had the correct number of upgrade points for when we start spending those. So this collectible album here will give you that challenge, which means I've now completed all 3, so I get all the rewards for those. Those, I believe, the reward is Sentinel Crystals. So all that remains now is to finish off our boss encounter. I got a little lost. Sorry about that. Kind of went backwards here until realizing, wait a minute, no, I was going the right way in the first place. Whoopsie daisy. So the boss we're going to be fighting here is the Doom Hunter. And it's the kind of thing that's going to become not a staple enemy, but it will appear later in the game as well, outside of an official sort of boss encounter situation. There's the the Holt Slayer Gate I mentioned earlier is particularly problematic when it comes to those.
Excellent.
Accidentally just ran straight into him here. That's one of the things you get when skipping cutscenes, so whoops. That's my mistake. And I want to say I lose a totally unnecessary life in this little arena. This is the easy part of this sort of boss encounter. And they teach you how to deal with this guy here. So there's various ways of dealing with it. I believe if you fire directly on its base, which is kind of the thing that takes the most damage, you may be able to get away with not removing its shield that covers the upper part of its body. I actually forget if that's the case. This is something I should really be sure about before I'm doing this video, but in any case, I still have a tendency to remove that. So charge up the heat wave, attacking regularly at the top until the shield goes down, and then hitting it with that fully charged heat blast, and then also usually charging in for a blood punch. Depending on how you do it, you can, and what you follow that up with, you can usually break them into this second state where they're kind of floating a little more rapidly. I screwed up that, and that just threw me off, and then I think I got too close and died or something. Yes. So they are certainly dangerous at close range, especially in this form, although in both forms. In both forms they are dangerous at close range. So that's another good point there. These shield guys kind of give you the impression that they aren't grappleable with the meat hook when in fact they are. You can hook those guys with no issues. So that is a good thing that I don't think I've talked about yet. In addition to that, you can also chainsaw them without any negative side effect, which is often a good way of dealing with them in the short term. If you have a number of them kind of hanging out in your grill, you can get rid of one essentially for free with a single pip of your chainsaw ammo. So that's definitely something that's worth remembering. So you kind of have to be careful in close proximity to these guys, but as you can see, you can do a pretty good bit of damage quickly by taking out those shields and then, you know, going from there. So I got that heat blast charged. Do a little extra damage there. I'm a little low on ammo here, so this is not the ideal weapon for this, but it's fine. Still got him a pretty good chunk of the way down. Gonna stock up on a few more resources here. You know, it occurs to me, I think I also die here, which is that they bonk you around, and I think that zombie, even though I was like way above him, ended up sideswiping me. The game, I'm not going to say that Doom Eternal is unfair, but it's a little quirky at times. Every now and again, you'll think that you're fine and above something or what have you, and it's like, oh, no, you know what? Nope. So, one of those things to be mindful of. So I got him down into a stagger state and then did not finish the job. So he gained a substantial portion of his health back. The reason I didn't bother doing that is because this arena is made somewhat more easy if you take both of these guys down kind of simultaneously. That was a poor attempt at a blood punch there. So this is a little bit of an emergency. Okay, get some stack back there. And now I've got this guy into his second form as well, so now we can just kind of finish them both off. Because as soon as you kill one of them, carcasses start spawning. Possibly some other things as well, like maybe prowlers, the purple teleporting dudes. So it's a little easier on you if you just get both of these guys down to the point where they're, you know, reasonably soft targets and then just finish the job. Prevents you having to do too much of that fight with that extra difficulty on top of it. So there we go. We have done it. So you get some upgrade there. Makes your blood punch more powerful for the remainder of the campaign. So you're essentially at, I think, full power on that. We got our weapon points here. Get our rewards for the challenges that we did. So we get 3 Sentinel batteries for that, which is 1.5 upgrades back at the Fortress of Doom. And we got all of our items here, including 2 more Sentinel batteries, which is another upgrade. So, this is a bit of a shorter level, and we'll start talking some more about upgrades going forward, and hopefully, maybe in this next level, we can start doing a little more talking about weapon swapping and demonstrating how that works. So that's it for this time, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching.